live button. Here we go, preparing the stream. We're just waiting to connect, folks. So if you're with us, just bear with us for a moment while we get our live stream connected. Here we go. Here we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the GoldFish Report. I'm your host, Louisa, and this is our live stream today. This is our special Q&A with a special returning guest. Let me first say that this is Friday, January 17th, 2020, and it's our GoldFish Report number 430. This is our Super Chat live stream with our returning guest, UFO researcher and contactee, an Andromedan contactee, which you all know, a returning guest to the GoldFish Report, dear person, Alex Collier. Hi, Alex. Thanks for returning. Thanks for coming back, being here.
Thank you, Louisa. It's an honor and a privilege.
I wanted to start with a few announcements to our viewers. First, we want to welcome Alex back, and then second, we also want to explain that the Super Chat, the first hour, is going to be an interview like we usually do, and then the second hour is when we're going to start the Q&A, which could go into a third hour for that, and it usually does. So hi, everybody. I see that people arriving in the chat, the live chat. Alex, I know you can't, but I'm going to say hello to people as they come in. So the second hour is when we start, and what we're going to ask our viewers, we're going to make a suggestion, and I'm going to type this in too, that you have the option of doing a super chat. So for the Q&A portion, it does require a super chat. The super chats are usually $20, so that's usually a minimum. So what you can do, I'm hearing a little echo in my headset. Okay, I think that's better. You have the option of doing the super chat in YouTube or going to our PayPal page and making the donation there, because we've had a lot of problems with Google, and I'm sure it doesn't surprise anybody. So I'll announce that again as we go along, like right before we go into the Q&A. I'll announce that again once more people show up. Hi, Shari, dear. Thank you for showing up. And Maria and Phoenix. Thanks, guys. Alex in New Mexico here. Thank you, Ivy. A lot of lovely people showing up into our live chat. I also wanted to put out a disclaimer pretty much right away that the topics that we're going to discuss in this report may challenge your worldview or your view of reality. And if you think that you may have a difficulty with that, then I suggest you not watch this program. We're going to be talking about UFOs, ETs, all kinds of things, Earth ascension, all kinds of things that are not your mainstream conversation. So if you think that you have, may have an issue with, I would say, unconventional conversation, by all means, there's plenty of other channels on YouTube you can watch. But if you'd like to have that kind of conversation, you are welcome here. So having said that, as I said, I'm going to be announcing at the end of our first hour, I'm going to be announcing how we're going to work the Super Chat Q&A. Because so many people, hi, Dr. Arden, hi, King's Hacienda. Lots of wonderful people back. Thank you so much for being with us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Alex, and I've asked Alex, and I know that there's a lot of people who are very familiar with who Alex is and have heard our first report, which was our 400th GoldFish Report, and it's really hard to believe this is 430 now, but we are working hard here. Yeah, your type of conversation. Excellent, Lena. Thanks, and welcome, everybody. So I'm going to start without further ado. I'm going to ask Alex for viewers who are new to this kind of conversation, who Alex is. I'm going to ask Alex just briefly to explain how he became a contactee and why the Andromedans wanted to become involved with Earth. So go ahead, my friend.
Thank you. Well, it started in 1964 on a family picnic up in Crooked Lake, Michigan. My grandparents owned a cabin up there, and the family we'd go up for a week or 2 weeks and just just enjoy nature. And that's where the whole thing started. I've talked about this ad nauseum in the past 29 years. We were playing hide and go seek, and I remember laying down in very tall grass and just waiting to be found. And the next thing I realize, I'm on a craft. It turns out that I had an agreement with them
Hmm.
to assist. Now,
Hmm.
I have a long history of reincarnating in the Andromedan civilization. And I'm
Wow.
talking about the constellation of Andromeda. Around the star Deneb, there are several solar systems. They call their solar system the Zenitae. And the two contacts, the two primary contacts were Theseus,
Hmm.
who was a holy man, considered a holy man in their civilization, and then Morine, who was a holy man in training. And of course, there's the crew of Morine's ship. Um, Back in 1998, October of 1998, Theseus left their physicality. And I do not know if he has reincarnated or not, or if he has chosen to incarnate in a different civilization. I don't know. Morine is, however, still alive and still very much interacting with a lot of things that are going on, not only in our solar system but the galaxy as a whole. Uh, the big picture is complicated, but once you understand the basic premise of how everything works and how everything is connected, which I hope I hope I can clarify that for you. Um, I hope to give you a perspective of the big picture. Now, I say perspective because I know there's a lot of information out there. And I know that there's a lot of contradictory information and there's a lot of complementary information. And then there's information that's so weird that it's kind of off by itself. Uh, you have to understand that whatever you think of life, physicality, physical life, what we all have to remember is that we're spiritual beings first. And time on other dimensions is simultaneous. It isn't, it's not real simple. Okay. And what we have to do here on Earth is we have to broaden our perspective. We can't take the entire universe in the Encyclopedia Galactica and condense it into 4 or 5 chapters that will suit everybody's needs. That just simply is impossible. If it were possible, I would have figured out a way to do it. So, but we'll just do the best that we can. I may answer some of your questions, and then on the other hand, I may create more questions for you.
Okay.
Ultimately, it comes down to this. If you were to sit down and write on a piece of paper all the facts about life, of what life is here on Earth in your present time,
Mhm.
and you write down all the facts of what you know, when you get to the very bottom of it and you look at it, you need to realize this. We actually live our lives in between all the facts. And in between all the facts is where we make decisions. It's where we feel emotions. It's where we make choices. And those choices are based on knowledge, experience, faith, hope, love, compassion. All of those things come into play. And that is really where we live our lives. It isn't just the results. It's about how we get to those results. And the further we go down this road together, and I mean we're all part of this odyssey that we're all a participant of, I want you to remember this, please, for whatever it's worth to you. What does your heart tell you to do? Because your heart is the part of you that is connected to spirit. And ladies and gentlemen, this is all about a spiritual journey. Everything that's happening on this planet, every underlining sequence of events, there is all of it has a spiritual component to it. And the more we attach ourselves to our souls, the more information we're going to get, the more guidance we're going to get, so that we understand the process and what's happening. And that preparation that all of us need to understand and to process the events, you can get from your own soul, from your own inner guidance. Because in order to move through all of this nonsense that is being thrown up at us, what we have to do in order to move through third, to embrace fourth, to understand the transition that humanity is going through, all of us need to build our own personal power. And that's spiritual power. That is not materialism. It isn't money. It's personal spiritual power, because there are other aspects of you living simultaneous lives in other frequencies and or dimensions or planes. And those aspects of you are fully aware that you're here having this experience. And if you call upon yourself on those planes to help you, you are absolutely obligated to help yourself. All we have to do is realize that it's there. I will share with you what I can about my journey and what I do, but ultimately it's up to you to create that linkage. It's up to you to connect to soul. It's up to you to connect to all that is, to God, the isness, the Holy Spirit, to Creator, whatever works for you as far as connecting to that source. That's really what this is about.
Can I interject for a
Earth was
second?
never meant to become a prison, but it has. We've been stuck. But now we're getting unstuck. And we're going to have to step up. Ultimately, that's where this is going. We're going to have to step up. And in stepping up, as we continue to talk about this with Louisa and I, and then of course your questions later on, we are all in a position to literally not only change our own lives, but to change the galaxy. For many of us, it's no mistake we're here at this time. We've volunteered to come in and to bust the system. Okay, I'm rambling. Sorry.
No, that's okay. No, look, you have hi, James. Hi, Barbara. I just wanted to say hello real quick to a few of our viewers who are coming in, and also to remind people that, yes, the super chat starts at 1 hour. It's a Q&A. Alex also does webinars, but this gives people a different kind of access. It's a different kind of platform. So the Q&A starts at 1 hour. For new viewers who are just coming in, not everybody started when we started the recording, so I'm just going to remind everybody how this works. We've been doing these a few times and it's been going very, very well. So to ask questions, you can wait until the 1 hour mark because that's when we're going to start the Q&A. And it is a super chat. This is how you support the channel, is by having that access to our guests, having that direct access and having your questions directly answered. That is a super chat donation. It's a minimum of $20. So you can do that through super chat, or we actually prefer you using the PayPal at thegoldfishreport.com. Once you make the donation there, then come back to the super chat and just ask your question. Let me know that you made the PayPal, or if you did the super chat, put your question in the super chat. This way we can make sure we ask your question, because what Alex is talking about is about all of us. It affects every one of us. And there has been a lot of awful things happening on the planet, and we were hijacked a bit by some bad races, alien races, and they messed with us quite a bit. We got our hands on some bad technology, and then I guess, is that, Alex, is that when the Andromedans decided they needed to come in, when we started misbehaving?
Okay. It wasn't just the A's.
Mhm.
Now, the only way I can explain this is that the chronological order of time on fourth and fifth density are complete.
Alex, are you with us? Alex, I think
I,
our okay, your internet was unstable for a minute. Are you still with us?
yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay, the
Can
internet
you
was
hear me?
unstable. Okay, I can hear you now. It cut out for a minute.
Okay.
Okay, could you please continue? Okay.
Okay. Um, but so when I give you time, it's Earth time. Okay, that's the only way I can give this to you is Earth time. So 800 years into the future, tyranny showed up in the galaxy. It manifested itself on multiple planes of existence. That got everybody's attention.
Hmm.
And I'm not just talking about the A's, but other life forms, not only on fifth density, but also fourth density and
Mhm.
sixth density. Beings on sixth density were very much aware of it and began to invoke a mentorship to understand what was going on, what caused the change.
Hmm.
And I'm going to do my best to explain what all that is
Okay.
and the reason why all this changed. We were given technology that we had no business having. We were not spiritually evolved enough to have this type of technology, and we abused it. We began to abuse it. But even then, that's a small percentage of what the real issue is.
Mhm.
The real issue is this: there is a shift of frequencies, of dimensions that is occurring in our galaxy. Now, you have to understand that if you're a spiritual being and you are living simultaneous existences uh, on multiple planes of existence, you're connected. There is a symbiotic relationship between you and those other factors of you on other dimensions. In December of 1993, a, a 12th density manifested itself or was created in our known holograph, which we call our physical universe. Technically, right now, there's 13. The 13th would be creator. Then you had the 12th, and then you have the 11th, etc., all the way down to basically the third level. In order for the dimensions to jump, to higher levels. In other words, for spiritual beings to move from third to fourth to fifth, it has to be together. Now, if there's a group, if there are several soul groups of us in the millions stuck on Earth, trapped in this shitstorm, for lack of a better word, and we can't ascend, what's happening is that we were holding back all the other parts of ourself that we're trying to move. In other words, the civilizations that we share a current existence with could not move. And that's what was happening. Everything became stuck, became trapped. And in other words, everything went into a lockdown. This is what they call tyranny, because there was no longer any movement. And that's because portions of ourself are stuck here. Now, this was done on purpose because somehow they figured out that there are very evolved beings here on Earth. Now, if you remember the first talk that we had with GoldFish, that I had with you guys, I talked about the Blue Brain Project, how they know that the brain has mapping, and the mapping shows that specific people have the ability to see multiple dimensions. Doesn't mean we have the ability, but the patterns of seeing multiple dimensions is already mapped out in our brains. Some can see 5, some can see 6, etc., all the way up to 11. Now, that means that clearly, if it were the same for everyone, we'd all be the same. We're not. That doesn't mean you're greater or less. What it means is that those of you who can see, whose brains are mapped to see 7 or 8 or 9 dimensions, you have experiences on those planes. And that also means that more than likely there is a part of you that is already on those planes, coexisting in the timeless holograph of existence. Now, if there's a part of you that's stuck here on third, you can't move to 10th density. You can't evolve to the 10th. You can't evolve to the 7th or the 8th, because there's a part of you that's stuck here.
Alex, are you with me? Okay.
Yeah,
It's a
I'm
little
here. I think
okay.
somebody's messing with us.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure of it. Maybe
Yeah,
we should just
it
call
happens to
in.
me a lot.
Why don't we call in
It happens to me a lot.
let's call in our guides for protection. We'll just ask them to come protect us and protect this connection so we can bring this information to the people. Everybody who's in chat, focus on your guides and ask them to protect this connection. I don't know. Is that good, Alex?
Okay. So the big picture here is that there are millions of us who came back in time to fix something, to right a terrible wrong. That's the first way they presented it to me. And that's exactly what we're doing. Now, using a lot of spiritual technology, dimensional technology, they are intervening to raise the frequency of many different star systems, many different solar systems, to free people who have been trapped in very, very dark energy. And it's working. It is absolutely working. If you just look at the last 15 years, maybe 20 years, at where the consciousness of humanity is, it may seem like it's actually retarding backwards, but in reality, it's not. It's accelerating at a rate that's literally unprecedented in all of Earth history. And but what's happened is that the control mechanisms that kept humanity enslaved
Mm,
are crumbling, and they're being exposed for the first time for most people to see,
mm,
especially in mass. So, because in order to defend their 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 imprisonment of humanity, they're having to step forward and defend it. There is no
mm.
defending what they've done to humanity. But nonetheless, it's been very, very important for humanity to actually see how this has all been working. And it has been all encompassing on a monetary system, on a religious system, on a governmental system, uh, on a media system. It's all been integrated to create a false reality and to trick humanity into thinking that we're just a natural resource, that we were an accident, that we came from apes, that um, when you die, God judges you, heaven or hell, all of those components to strike fear, because when humanity or a spiritual being is in fear, we literally imprison ourselves. And
They feed
all of
off of
that's
that,
coming to light. All of
right?
that's coming to light.
Right, Alex? Isn't that the goal that they have is to keep us in fear and feed off of that energy?
Well, that's been the tool. That really
Mm,
is the only tool they have.
mm,
Um, you know, you see, we're creators. We can literally create physicality. We can will something into existence. And if they can get us in a space of fear, they can control what we see and what we think and what we want to create.
mm.
That gives them all the power to literally trick us into creating our own prison so that they continue to feed off of humanity. That's what's been going on. Now, with the intervention
Mm,
and of multidimensional beings, with the intervention of uh, star beings with our space fleet, and this information being shared with humanity on very subtle levels, everybody's beginning to get the picture. And I'm telling you, and I say this with absolute certainty, humanity has already turned the corner. There is no going back. What we're in the process now of seeing and experiencing is the end of the old system. Okay, for if I can use a Star Wars analogy, the end of the empire, watching
mm,
it begin to crumble on its own lies, its own deceit, its own facade, its own fakery.
mm.
And then what has to happen is it has to come down, and it is. But what humanity has to do is we have to band together, and we have to begin to have the conversation, a much bigger conversation about, okay, now that we realize what's happened to us, what do we want? What do we want? Uh, we will get assistance, but ultimately, we have to create our own future, because the benevolence, once they shed the light on all of this and they share with us our true history, it's still up to us to create ourselves, to create the future of humanity. They're not going to do it for us, because that puts us right back in the position of letting someone else dictate, of someone else. Um, well, ultimately, we have to create our own personal power. And in that personal power, we become leaders. And in leadership, you lead. And as you continue to share your leadership and create generations of leaders behind us, ultimately what happens is we become unconditionally self-responsible for ourselves without having to be coerced by some other authority. That's the ultimate goal here. To be truly free, you have to really want to be free. And you have to take responsibility for what freedom really is and ultimately where it goes. And that means we have to own our shit. And we can't have any more excuses of, well, they did this, they did that, because once they're gone and you know, and humanity knows what's been going on, we have to step up. Humanity has to man up
Mm.
and become the solution, not the problem. We cannot continue to be the victims. We have to leave all that behind. And we're blessed to not only have benevolent intervention, but we have so many beings on this planet, both in politics, in the military, in the space program, and in all walks of life. We call them white hats,
Mhm.
who are doing their best to hold the frequency, to hold the ground, and give us a chance to catch up, and then add our knowledge, our intuition, our desires, our soul to fixing and healing humanity so that future generations can achieve their full potential. That's really what we're doing, and that's really what's about to happen here. 2020 is going to be remarkable, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. You know, the changes humanity is going to go through with self knowledge is going to be profound. In 10 years, we may not even recognize our world. And I know there's all this doom and gloom, and no, the future's bright. The future is incredibly bright. We have to embrace it. You know,
L-
that's the old order trying to create more
mhm,
fear
mhm.
and to keep us and to try to get us to sabotage ourselves with all the old programming, you know?
Right. Let me ask you, Alex, to clarify something that you had said. So you said in 10 years we might not recognize our society. We would have to go through a massive re-education, but not the way, the Bernie Sanders campaign wants to do it, through gulags, make gulags great again, right? I mean, what was it?
Right,
Did you guys
right,
see that Project
right.
Veritas? It was amazing. How are we going to achieve this? This sounds huge. So is there a plan in place? What can you tell us about that?
It's developing. You see, the key component to any plan is humanity, because it's not about the aliens. It's about us. It's about humanity. And the biggest change that's going to occur with humanity is a reintegrate, what's the word I'm looking for? Is
Integration?
no.
No. Okay.
Reintegrating ourselves
Okay.
with our spiritual selves. In other words, seeing the world from the heart first instead of just the mind. Leading with the heart instead of just the mind. Most people on the
Mm.
planet have become conditioned to see the world through the eyes, through the mind, not with the heart. That's going to be the biggest shift. Humanity is going to re experience
Mm.
compassion on a level we have never known. And that compassion is going to be not only for ourselves, but for each other.
Well, we can see a lot of things changing right now. We see this big QAnon movement that's really global. You see protests. People aren't taking it anymore. They are waking up, as you're saying. There is, look, the Schumann resonance. We've had some days where this was just a complete whiteout for like
Yeah.
12 hours on the 29th, on December 29th. It was a whiteout for 12 hours. And I think what happened on January 1st, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, is that it went all black for quite a long period of time because it was like being reset or something. I don't know. I am not an expert at this, but what could you tell us about the Schumann resonance and how that's related to this, if it's related?
Well, it is. All existence, all physicality is a result of color, light, and sound. That's what everything is. Um, Everything is frequency. The dimensions, all of it, everything is frequency. And what's happening is that the frequency is changing, literally changing so fast that you have people who are embracing it. They are empowering themselves. They are seeing for the first time genuine clarity of what is, what could be. They're seeing through um, they're seeing through the illusion and the manipulations
Mhm.
that humanity has had to live under for thousands and thousands of years.
Well, some people are. Some people are
Oh,
still.
well, well, just let me finish. Let me
Uh,
finish.
please, okay,
And then there's others who cannot handle the frequency,
okay.
and it's a choice. It literally is a choice. They may not be aware of the choice, but for those who cannot handle the frequency, uh, what do? They they basically lose it.
Hmm.
And because they can't handle the change, what do? They attack the change. They attack those who are breaking away, who are freeing themselves, and they attack them and be literally begin to bully them into positions where they think that they can create fear and use any tool that's always worked to try to pull people back into the old system. The best analogy is the crab pot. Fisherman is on on a pier and he's pulling up the crab pots and he's putting crabs in a big bucket. Little boy's watching him. He says, "Sir, that those crabs are going to get out." He goes, "No, they're not going to get out because the others are going to pull them back in." Well, what's happening is a lot of the crabs are getting out of the pot, and the ones that are stuck in the bucket are the ones who can't handle the frequency. They simply are terrified to free themselves and step
Mhm.
out of the bucket into the universe of freedom, to the galaxy, to spirit, the world of unlimited, unconditional love and spirit. They simply are terrified to go there. And they're the ones who are stuck, who are trying to pull everybody back.
We see this unfolding right in front of our eyes in
It
Congress right
is
now.
it's everywhere. I mean, the empire is crumbling,
Mhm.
and the freedom fighters, the republic, is scratching and clawing and trying to reestablish itself. And when I refer to the republic, what I'm referring to are people who want to be free, absolutely truly want to be free to make their own decisions and to make their own way without being coerced or manipulated. And here in the country, here in the United States, it's blatant. The dichotomy,
Mhm.
the two sides. wrestling with each other. But what we're not being shown is that this is happening all over the world. Every single country this is happening in, every single one. And it's a shift. It's a shift of consciousness with humanity who humanity wants to be free. You know, the A's used to call this creating a domain of knowing. And back in the early notes, they talked about how it took 1,000 years for humanity to create what we now know as the United States of America. And we created a government that was run by the people, self-rule, self-governance. And we had guaranteed rights of how we wanted to be treated. And we created a contract, which we call the Constitution. And that inspired the whole world to want more freedom and to be free and to be treated with respect and honor. And that's why even to this day, so many people want to come to this country. It's because they love the idea of actually being free, even though America has become a shade of what it used to be. But the promise of being free is something that is so ingrained in our souls, because when you're not on Earth and you're out there in space, or you're having another existence in another civilization, most of them are free, genuine freedom. And there's a part of us that remembers that. And that's what we're longing for. And we're going to have it. It's coming back.
Alex, one of the viewers in our chat has mentioned something about ego, and that's a real big problem. That's something that really, I think, is interfering. I know you've talked about this. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? How we can overcome this ego and, like you said, get out of the head and be more, heart driven.
Well, everybody has their own definition. I mean, ego in itself, self-confidence, is not necessarily a bad thing. There has to be balance with all things. And if you believe in yourself and you're confident in yourself, and at the same time you're humble, you have humility, that's one thing. But to feel that but to feel that your way is the only way, and that you have to be in control of others, and that control, that your need to control and manipulate, justifies any action you take, regardless of what it does to the others, that's incredibly destructive. But again, the less spiritual foundation people have, the more ego-driven they become. If you're genuinely a spiritual person and you get the fact that there's a God, there's a creator, there is a spiritual hierarchy, there is a presence, God, generator of dimensions, that this presence exists. When you get that and you are humbled by that knowledge, you're not an egotistical person. You may be self-confident, but you're not an egotistical person. Most of the biggest egotistical people that I'm aware of are people who really no longer have a spiritual foundation. It's all about control and manipulation, because they see their existence strictly on a physical plane. They don't connect themselves to spirit and realize we're here for a minute. literally just for a minute, that our lives that we experience here are a blink in the eye uh, in the concept of time.
Okay, let me ask you this, Alex. How soon can we start, and what do you think is going to happen with advanced technology? How soon do you think, like healing technology, free energy technology, things like that? Do you expect, how soon do you expect our society be able to start to incorporate that technology? Is it gifted to us? Uh, the secret space program has had this technology, teleportation. They have all, anti-gravity, photoradionic drives, UFOs, all of this. I mean, cars are so antiquated. They really are. Anything combustion, so
Yeah,
antiquated.
yeah, the combustion engine, is long lived its usefulness.
True.
Um, but well, let me answer that question in this way.
Mhm,
This again, we have to get back to the empire, the
mhm,
systems that are in place.
mhm,
Back in the late 50s, my father and my uncle Tony were at the Indianapolis Raceway, and my uncle Tony was in worked for a union, and my dad went with him on a business trip. Well, they found themselves there on a particular day, and they watched a gentleman who built a specific engine in a car take a garden hose,
mhm.
put water in the gas tank, and then run that car around the Indianapolis Raceway 40 times on water.
Oh.
Okay, I believe
Hmm.
this was in 1957. Gulf Western, which is a company that no longer exists, but it was called Gulf Western, bought the plans, bought the car, and it was never seen again. And in fact, neither was the inventor. Okay, no one knows what happened to him, but it all disappeared. So we've had technology. Um, the Germans created an oil substitute that they used in their trucks when they went into Russia in the winter in World War II. Those blueprints haven't been haven't been seen from again either. So there's been a lot of technology that's been created that we did here on Earth just by sheer ingenuity and a need. You know, I mean, we're clever. Humanity is very, very smart. We love to figure things out, especially when the need is great. The problem is that we've had this control mechanism above it that has been based on greed and power. So yes, we don't need the combustion engine. Um, for example, the example I just gave you about water, the car was burning hydrogen. It was separating hydrogen from the water, and out of the tailpipe came out water. Okay, so we've had this technology. It's been around. It's been suppressed. Now you
Right.
go to cold fusion.
Mhm,
Uh, for $10 million, a cold fusion facility can be built. It will last at least 25 years, and an entire city of 100,000 could run on
mhm.
free energy. Then you have Nikola Tesla, who
Right.
was able to pull energy from the earth and was able to uh, send that free electricity through the air. And he did this in the late 1900s, early 1920s
Mhm,
here in Colorado Springs. That technology was suppressed. Free electricity. The homes had an antenna on it. Some of them were 20 miles
mhm,
away, and they were able to run on electricity. So, um, the technology is there. Now you're talking about the
mhm,
Space Force. Yes, a lot of reverse engineered technology was given to us in crashes. Not every crash was an accident and had nothing to do with uh, bad pilots. Some of those ships that came down didn't even have crews on them. They were gifted. And unfortunately, that technology was not shared. So, do I think it's going to occur? I think what has to happen is that these structured systems that are still in place, they have to be removed, or they have to see the light, one or the other. But, we're talking about a paradigm shift of greed to a system where humanity comes first. And that paradigm shift has to be something like this. Why do we have to pay to live on a planet we were born on?
Thank you. I say that all the I feel like now I hear myself talking. Good, keep going. Exactly. Cows don't have to, trees don't have to.
That's the paradigm shift here. Why do we have to pay to live on a planet we were born on? And that's the paradigm shift. And it's going to be interesting to watch this hierarchy, this power structure collapse. And it's going to be interesting. I don't know exactly. I don't have all the answers. I'm watching it just like everybody else. But I can tell you that, and I want all of you to clearly understand this, that this shift is a spiritual component. This shift that is occurring with everything and everyone, and the collapsing of the power structure, the manipulative cabal, Illuminati, whatever you want to call it, the Orion Consortium, that's regressive ETs. This collapse is being done and facilitated by a spiritual component, a benevolent spiritual component, because we are so out of whack that balance has to be created, and that involves an intervention on our behalf. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to do all the work for us. At some point, either our generation or the next several generations, there's going to be a handoff. But that handoff will only occur once a sufficient amount of people have reached advanced spiritual maturity. And it's coming. It's absolutely coming, because humanity should be we're 400 years behind the rest of the galaxy. We need to catch up. And like I said, there's a lot of us here who are living simultaneous, multidimensional lives. We got to catch up. We're in 4 or 5 different places at once. We have to be in balance. And I get some of you may not have any idea what I'm talking about. I get that. I do.
Well, Alex, my other co-host, Winston Trout, who used to join me, he used to talk about a lot of interesting topics. And one of the things that he said was that not everybody's contracted for ascension. Some souls have contracted specifically for a 3D experience. So they're not going to be part of the ascension. They're not going to be part of, moving into higher vibrations and frequencies. So is that how you see it as well?
Well, that's what I've been told. Not everyone is going to make it. However, I think it is important to note, and this was exactly the way it was presented to me by Theseus, all the broken pieces will definitely find their way home. Okay? They will all find their way home. Everybody's at a different place, at a different level, and there's nothing right or wrong about it. But again, some of us have come back in time to right the terrible wrong. Humanity, Earth humanity, as we know ourselves, we are a very, very important component to the health and the welfare of our galaxy. And we have to start thinking galactically. And I understand that most people don't even think ETs exist or are alive,
Mm-hmm.
but you'll get there. Eventually, you'll get there. You know, um, everybody's at a different place. Uh, this conversation is a bit more advanced, uh, and that's just what it is.
We're having just a little interference in our internet again, so just bear with us, folks. This doesn't usually happen, but this is important stuff, and it's not a surprise. Everybody concentrate on keeping this internet connection stable, please. Put your intentions out there to have our guides to protect this connection. So, yeah, Alex, this is about spirituality, as you said, and I think from what I recall in a previous interview you've done, you said that's really the function that, or one of the functions, I would say, that the Andromedan Council has, is to oversee uh, evolution. Is that how, or maybe you can explain it better?
Well, yeah, they mentor, they mentor many different civilizations, and they themselves are being mentored from other civilizations.
Mm-hmm.
Each level of frequency carries a larger component of self.
Mm-hmm.
And as we continue to evolve spiritually, as we continue to hold more frequency in whatever physical form we choose to take in other frequencies, other dimensions, every soul has pretty much the exact same purpose, and that's to evolve and to know thyself, and to experience thyself, and to experience what we create with our choices and our decisions. I mean, that's it. And even though the physicality is different, and it could be that the rules are different, the calls are different, the bottom line is, on each dimensional frequency we experience, it's still about evolving and generating more spiritual power, and trying to discover exactly what our potential is. To my knowledge, it's completely unlimited.
Okay, before we start going into the Q&A, which will be in just a few minutes, Alex, you talked about know thyself. We all know this from Jesus, of course. We're talking about Christ consciousness. Can you, explain, Jesus to us in a different context from what we're used to? Who was Jesus, and why was he here? In 2 minutes. Sorry, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Take your
All
time.
right, in 2 minutes. Okay. Oh, I didn't see this one coming.
Well, you did say know thyself.
Okay. Well,
That's what he said.
it goes back long before that. I mean, the Greeks talked about it, the Egyptians. I mean, there have been many sages, and there have been many previous civilizations that had profound spiritual knowledge that was shared with the common man, with their civilizations. Unfortunately, a lot of that was lost through pole shifts, through wars, and just destruction, intentional destruction of those records. Was there a Jesus? Yes. In fact, there were 3 very prominent human beings, spiritual beings, that had that name, Yeshua. the biblical Jesus, the New Testament Jesus, is more or less a composite character. But it doesn't change the fact that there were sages and teachers here that had profound knowledge and wisdom.
Are you with us? Are you with us? Okay, the internet connection is a little bit shaky, but you're okay. You're still there.
I've got all my bars here, so I'm
interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Interesting. Okay.
Let me answer the question like this.
Okay.
An incredible teacher, but he did say, "These things I do, ye shall do greater, if ye have faith." Now, what he's saying, or what was said, is that we all have the same potential. And a lot of the teachings we haven't gotten. I'll give you an example. For those of you, are you familiar with the Sinai Bible? It's the oldest Bible in existence that we know of, complete Bible. It was put together in 600 AD, and it's called the Sinai Bible. And the British Museum is putting pages of it, most of it I think is done by now, up on the website. It's not in print per se, as a complete document, but if you were to compare the King James Version of the New Testament with the Sinai Bible, or let's just say the King James Version of the Bible, with the Sinai Bible, there are 15,000 discrepancies between the Sinai Bible, which was created in 600 AD, and the Bible that we are given today. 15,000 major discrepancies in the story, and in the words, and in the teachings. I'm going to let you figure that out. Okay?
Could you repeat that? 15,000?
Because the older you go back,
it's a little garbly. Discrepancies.
There are over 15,000 discrepancies. Okay?
Okay.
Now, the further you go back, the closer you are to the actual words that were said. Now, the further you get away from that, you've got politics, you've got popes, you have cardinals, you have the Inquisition, you have governments altering and changing things, because at some point it was all about controlling the people. I'll let you figure that out.
Exactly. Well,
okay.
Okay.
There's still so much we don't know, but the more we connect to spirit, the more we know, the more we remember. And I mean remember. We know on one level of ourselves, we know what the truth is. These things I do, ye shall do greater, if ye have faith. That's a profound statement, folks. That's an absolutely profound statement. That doesn't take anything away from who he was, who he isn't. But what it does say is, you have the greatness within you as well.
Are we talking about that 12th strand manifestation gene as part of that? Is that part of that? I really want to keep asking questions, but you know what? It is actually,
No,
hold on a
I don't
second.
think so. But no, that's a good point. I don't necessarily think so, because you have very advanced spiritual benevolent races in fourth and fifth and sixth density, and my understanding is that they're operating with 7, 8, 9, 10 strands. They don't have the 12th strand, and yet they're there. They're already there. It The 12th strand is not a prerequisite for being spiritually evolved. It's just not.
Hmm. Okay.
So, let's not get stuck on, well, we got to have 12 strands. That's rubbish. That's clearly not the case.
Hmm. Isn't that though why they want to hybridize humans though? They want to, some of these races that are dying out, they've genetically engineered. Let's say the Greys or the Zetas, they've engineered themselves so much that they can't reproduce. Isn't that why they came here to do experimentation, to find a way to take some of what we have? And before you answer that, Alex, let me just announce that the Q&A portion has started, folks. And the way that this works is that you have the option to either go to the PayPal link that I posted in the super chat, to ask Alex a question if you want to interact. It's like in a webinar sense, but we're doing it live and in real time. So if you want to ask Alex questions, you can either use the super chat or you can use the PayPal. We've not been having I don't know, Google's not very user friendly, actually, we found out. So, but you can do that, or you can go to the PayPal link that I listed if you want to ask a question. Now, I know that someone's already made a donation, and I wanted to ask Barbara if you had a question. I know Barbara said she wanted to gift that to someone, so she wanted to just make that as a donation. But Barbara, I want to ask you first, if you do have a question for Alex, please do put that question in the super chat. And also, if not, then I'll have to just pick somebody, or maybe Barbara can pick somebody who has a question. So if anyone else has a question, it is a super chat time, so you can go ahead and start that, and I'll just wait for you all to post your questions in the super chat so that I can ask Alex. So Alex, yeah. So people are commenting that they're grateful that you clarified that, because that's a big deal. I mean, that's a big part of what was going on here with treaties. And of course, the treaties were violated. There was treaties made, as you know, between Eisenhower and some of the Greys and the other races, to do experimentation, do abductions, and for in exchange for technology. From what I understood, that once we were given it, we didn't understand how to use it. Of course, I guess that wasn't part of the deal. But what's going on with? Thank you, Barbara. She is gifting her donation to somebody. All right, then I will pick, but I will wait. So, Alex, what can you tell us about that? And why do they
Okay,
choose
we were
us? We
trying.
have 22. You said that we have 22 races of DNA in humans. So why did they come to us? Sorry, go
Because of
ahead.
our extremes of, number one, our extremes of emotions.
Okay.
Okay, incredible creative force, emotion. When you're clear about your intent and you back it up with passion, there's nothing we can't accomplish. Not only that, but they figured out that there are many, many very, very advanced souls here
Hmm.
that have genetic memory that no way would they ever be able to get their hands on or experience themselves. So, what they had to do was, it was either go to full out war or trick us into allowing them to come in and do what they wanted to do. So what they did was they dangled technology.
Hmm.
They had no intentions of living up to their agreement. They knew, you know, they knew watching us that our cultures were very much fear-based, and that we created weaponry and societies and culture based on fear. So, I mean, we were basically made to order for them, um, because their whole gig was about control and manipulation. And they already used fear. I mean, they've been using that for, millennia on other evolving races on other planets and other parts of the galaxy and other galaxies. So what they did was they they dangled technology. They gave us their throwaway stuff, which of course was hundreds and hundreds of years ahead of anything we could even conceive. Now the Germans, the Nazis, when they brought them over with paperclip, they had some experience already because they were dealing with the Aldebarans and the reptilian races. So they already knew, um, but they didn't have the resources to make it all work. So bringing them over here to the United States, and then the Orion Group, which was a consortium of basically regressive races, when they made the deal at Muroc Air Force Base, now known as Edwards, uh, they dangled the carrot. We took the carrot. We thought we were hot shit, and they began doing what they wanted to do, and there was nothing we could do about it because on a technological level, they were 1,400 to 15 to 2,500 years more advanced than we were. So basically, what we had to do was just take what we could get and then try to figure it out. To our credit, those of us who didn't sell out, kept doing what they could to watch out for humanity, to try to defend humanity, to try to protect humanity. Ultimately, that paid off because they were the ones who were approached out in space. Now, how do we know this? How would the benevolent races know? Because they're multidimensional and interdimensional, they have the ability to watch our chains of thoughts, to watch the chain of thoughts of every single being, not only on Earth, but off world in these starships, without them even knowing it. And they could tell their integrity and their honor and their spiritual maturity by their chains of thoughts. If they continued to put others ahead of themselves, those were the ones that they would target and eventually meet. And they were the ones that they began to share and have contact with. And they began to unravel for them everything that's been going on here, especially who these groups really were and what their history of control and manipulation throughout the galaxy, what they've done, and where it would eventually end up for humanity. And it wasn't good for us. It never would be. We would have ended up fighting their wars for them. We would be the Star Troopers for them as they went around colonizing and taking over other worlds. This is what they do. They're parasites. Literally, they're parasites. So that's how it began to unravel. And as it's evolved over the last 25 to 30 years, we have seen the separation in the militaries. And this is worldwide. And now we're looking at the white hats on all levels of society on the planet, in every country. You're seeing the separation of those in search of power and greed and those who are going to protect humanity at all costs. And now that you have the spiritual component in it, it is literally amplifying. It is literally amplifying the fact that humanity is now protected and is going to continue to be protected because we have a destiny. Mm-hmm. We have a destiny, and we have to be allowed to have that destiny. If anybody's going to screw it up, it has to be us. We're not going to be manipulated into control and taking ourselves out. It's just not going to happen. They're not going to let us be genocided by a bunch of psychopathic galactic assholes. It's just not
Right.
going to happen. Um,
Well, let me
Go
move to
ahead.
a question. Let me move to a question
Okay.
a viewer has. Okay, so after removing the regressives from their nests inside the Earth, why don't the benevolents destroy the technology so that the cabal can't get their hands on it?
Well, my understanding is that a lot of the technology is being taken out of here.
Hmm.
It's being removed. Some of the technology that's down there is technology we built,
Hmm.
humans created, okay, through reverse engineering, etc. It's
Okay.
not all bad, okay. It can be used either way, but the technology that's here that they use, that we absolutely have no maturity uh, to use or even to toy with, that is being removed.
Okay, very good. So folks, the Q&A has started and I wanted to just let you know that you can put your super chat in you can put your question. Please put it in all caps because otherwise it's a little hard for me to catch the question. So I have to actually scroll back up and look for the question. So if you can use the all capital letters, that would be great. If you want to use the super chat, there's a button right underneath you, and you can use it there, or you can use the link that I provided for the PayPal donation button. So let's move to the next question. The questions are for super chat donations, folks. So if you want to ask a question, the first one was gifted by Barbara Santora. So Barbara, thank you so much. That was very nice of you. She gifted it so that someone else can have a chance to ask a question. So you have to put the super chat in. You can use super chat if you want, or you can go to the PayPal link, and I'll put that. Excuse me, I'll put that link back in there again so you guys can have that direct link. So let me just do that really quick. Um, what do you know, Alex, about the treaty? Is it, when we found out that the Greys and that whoever these other beings were who, the deal was they were supposed to abduct the people and then do experiments, wipe their memory so they wouldn't remember it, keep a list of everybody who they had abducted, and then return them safely to their homes without them knowing anything. But the problem was many were returned dead, missing eyeballs, missing parts of their bodies. There were cows mutilated. We've all heard the stories. They obviously broke their deal. Do you have any idea uh, what happened after that? Obviously we're not still following that treaty, I would hope.
No, no, that been completely abandoned.
Hmm.
And you know, the only groups that of humans that are still participating with those original groups from the Orion Consortium or the Orion Group that came down here and
Hmm.
basically tricked us and manipulated us into this position. These are people who no longer these are groups or affiliations that no longer identify themselves with humanity.
Hmm.
They have basically become part of the hive of those extraterrestrial groups, and they have not only sold out humanity in the worst and most despicable way, but they realize that they can never come clean because they will never be allowed to live with us, um, because they're no longer us. They simply don't identify with us at all anymore. Um, Many of them have attachments, a very dark jinn
Hmm.
attachments. Uh, others others just left humanity behind. They
Hmm.
left their spiritual selves behind, and they are going to go down with the cabal. They're going to go down with the cabal, and that is their choice. That is absolutely their choice. You see, the rogue groups that are still here, they can't escape. There is nowhere for them to go. They cannot hide. They had an opportunity to leave. They reneged because of what they've done all across the galaxy. Um, Karma has finally come to their doorstep. Okay, for lack of a better word. So they're done. They're not going to be free. They're not going to roam the galaxy. They're not going to roam the universe. They're done. They're going to be rehabilitated, whatever the term is, for what they've done. And those that are on the planet that are human, who have chosen to remain with them, well, they're going to suffer the same consequence. Um, Whatever that consequence is, though, they will not experience it by the hands of the benevolence. The benevolence are only going to deal with the ET portion of this. Okay? The humans, they will be dealt with by humans. Okay?
Got it. I have another question if we can move along. So Diana, thank you for your super chat. It is a minimum of $20 super chat questions, folks. So ask about, thank you for asking about Jesus. Great show. Any other interesting facts about the Sinai Bible she would like to know?
Well, let's just say it tells a very different story than what the Vatican has tried to shove down our throats. A very different story. And what's interesting is that at the time that Rome was consolidating power, there was a great deal of spiritual knowledge on the planet. Egyptian spirituality, Buddhism, what we now call Buddhism, the Greek philosophies. There was an enormous amount of spiritual knowledge that had come down the pipes from, I think Atlantis was probably where a great deal of it, as Atlantis was at war, a lot of spiritual knowledge was taken off the islands, and it was moved to remote locations all over the planet. And then when it sank or was destroyed, that knowledge was held in great sacredness. At the time of the creation of the Library of Alexandria, a lot of that knowledge was taken from these remote locations and taken there because it was believed that it would be a repository for all of humanity. The world knew everything. The Sumerians, the Babylonians, they knew all about Peru because they would go down there looking for tin. They knew about America or North America. The world was being explored. This nonsense that Columbus discovered the West or the Americas is absolute rubbish.
Right.
So, there was a lot of knowledge that was being shared around the world. And so, when Rome decided to burn down the Library of Alexandria and destroy much of that knowledge, they did it with the intention of wanting to control man's spiritual evolution and to steer humanity into a place where a government became a church, and the church became the vicar of Christ. And the vicar of Christ was going to decide who went to heaven, who went to hell. And they would make a decision as to who would live and who would not. It was the absolute worst perversion of any spiritual teaching that was ever on the planet at that time. And I hate to just call it what it is, but that is in fact what it is. Um, but all those secrets are coming out, and they have been for some time. And that's one of the unique things about the Sinai Bible, the Dead Sea Scrolls. There was a time I lived in California, and I went to the Huntington Library in Pasadena to actually see some of the scrolls before the church pulled them. And the church pulled them because they started deciphering the scrolls. And once again, they were telling a very, very, very different story than that which the church had everybody believing. So, but
Right.
everybody has to explore that for themselves. It's
That's true.
fascinating. There is so much more to us than we can possibly imagine. And I know for myself, it's quite the journey. It really is quite the journey.
Right. And let me just also remind viewers, if you put your questions in caps, I will see them. So I should have announced that in the very beginning, but as long as you know that, I can see them better. So, Alex, we, you and I were talking before we started the recording, and we're talking about belief systems and people challenging their belief systems. And when you look at over the past, several years, so many, so many, I would priests have been, arrested, convicted, indicted for, um, pedophilia. Um, and it really doesn't seem to be what it looks like. How could it be so pervasive just simply within, it seems to be extremely pervasive, higher, I would say, demographically than the general population, that this is occurring within the church. And when you look at photos of the Vatican, you see some very, very dark images of the auditorium beneath the Vatican, which is all very serpent shaped. I think we've been hoodwinked. I was raised Catholic, but I'm open-minded because the evidence is in our face, isn't it? It's right hiding plain in our face, isn't it? We just have to know, I don't know, we need a new pair of glasses. What do we need? What do people need to see it?
Well, that's something different for everyone else.
Mhm,
Everyone has their own perception
mhm,
and their own ability to see what it is that is there and what's not there. Um, is every priest awful? No, I don't believe that. Um, but the whole pedophilia thing is way beyond the church. It's something that's pervasive at the highest levels
mhm,
of power for some reason. Um, Visayas once, well, I was asked to put together, I'll answer the question in this way. I was asked to put together um, an explanation for money, why we use money.
mhm,
And I put together this huge paper and I shared it with them in the form of a lecture. And it was over 3 different contacts. And I thought I did a great job explaining why we use money and what it is. When it was done, Visayas just looked at me. Mornay said, thank you. And he must have known because they're telepathic. He must have known what Visayas was going to do. And Visayas just looked at me and he said, I don't understand why you have to pay to live on a planet you were born on. And what resulted from that was another conversation where Visayas said, it doesn't matter what you believe,
mhm.
as long as you understand why you believe it. And I think what's happened is we forgot to ask those questions. Why do I believe this? Why do I believe anything? And, you know, knowledge is acquired. It's one thing to know about, but it's a whole other thing to actually experience. And I think ultimately what happened is that most people genuinely, at their deepest core, understand that there is a creator and that we're connected to that source. And I think really what happened was the church played on that empathy that we have, not only for each other, but the fact that, we believe in a higher power, and they perverted it and manipulated it to give them sovereignty over what God is on earth and what God represents on earth. And for many of us, we played into it. Our ancestors played into it. Those who did not were typically persecuted, um, tortured, put to death, ostracized, enslaved. The Inquisition would be something to point out. I mean, that happened during the Renaissance, the Inquisition. And history teaches us, oh, that was a very enlightened period on our planet. Well, yes and no. You know, so I think when humanity wants to give its power away, there'll always be someone there to take it and use it and manipulate it and turn it around against us. Um, when we abdicate the management of our own lives to someone else, thinking we can trust them, it usually doesn't go well for us. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that humanity is going to look back on, is that when we give our power away, someone's going to take it and they're going to turn it around and use it against us. Because without spiritual maturity, they become tyrants. They just become tyrants and they enslave. It's an awful thing. It's an awful thing.
So, well, Alex, I mean, isn't it strange though? I mean, here they criticize us that we're, not developed and have this, okay, so some humans did sell out to um, sell humanity down the river, sadly, but they're these Draconis, their fourth dimension, they're not very nice either. I mean, there's other races, like you're saying, who have come and exploited us, and they have greater abilities than we do, like at this point in time. And not to say that we, don't have that ability at some point, but it's like, you know, it seems like some hypocrisy in that, you know, to ascend and to become a higher dimensional being, I think you said it once before, there's still duality. So
Yes.
okay, is that how you would, or maybe you could just expand on that a little bit?
Well, the duality exists, my understanding, all the way up to the sixth. Once you get to the sixth dimension,
Mhm.
um, there is a great deal less duality. Now, why Creator, Great Spirit, the Holy Spirit created the duality, I think that's open for discussion. It could be that the duality is there in order to give us contrast. Without contrast, how do we actually grow? How do we make choices of what it is we want and then what it is we don't want? Um, by having the duality, the contrast is very, very stark. It's very in your face. I mean, that's the only way I can logically understand the purpose for the duality. Maybe it's
Mhm.
it's to inspire us and force us to grow and become stronger, to evolve quicker, to evolve on a much deeper level. Maybe it's to continue to understand compassion and love for others. Maybe it's also to experience the concept of forgiveness, of being able to get to a place where we learn to forgive. Um, and, you know, in forgiveness, the term unconditional love grows and expands at a profound level. You know, I'm figuring it out just like everybody else is. Um, but you know, I have thought about this a lot, and you know, the A's don't tell me everything. They
No.
don't. No.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, especially about myself, they're like, this is your journey. You know, we're just here to assist you, but it's your journey.
Hmm.
So they never give me my answers.
I have another. I just wanted to reach out and say thank you to David Lear for your generous donation. He's not asking a question, but he just says a huge appreciation and thanks to both you and Alex for getting this information out. Much love and many blessings to you both. Thank you so much for that. You know, folks, you can make a donation. You don't have to ask a question if you don't want to, but it will go to help supporting the channel and for expenses to put this program together. So, you know, it is very beneficial to both Alex and myself, and any help is appreciated. We have all gone through a lot to try to bring this program together, folks. So, you know, by all means, we're providing, you know, I mean, Alex's webinars are one way that you can have access to Alex and ask him specific questions that are meaningful to you, something that you want to know about for your own growth and ascension. And this is another platform to do that. So you can put your question in the chat. You can do a super chat if you want to, but you can also go to the PayPal link that I put in there and use PayPal instead, because either one is fine. It doesn't matter. Nathan, Brandon, thank you so much. Do you have a question? Thank you for Nathan says, Alex, thank you for all that you have done and sacrificed throughout your life and in support of sharing the information and experiences you've received. My mom and I support you. Thank you so much, Nathan, for your donation. That's so sweet of you. People love hearing you. Not as many questions as I was hoping tonight, but I do appreciate the super chat donations, folks, because they do help to keep this program and this kind of programming going and to bring this information to you. There's a lot of expense involved in doing this, and it's, you know, great that we can give this to you in a platform where you can actually interact live, you know, in real time and get a question asked. I mean, I do it all the time. I'm always watching things on TV, and not TV. I don't watch TV actually, but I'm always on YouTube, watching stuff on YouTube, and it is nice to have the convenience of like just stopping and interjecting and asking a question. So it's a great opportunity, and I saw them doing these super chats, and I said, that's it. This is the way to do it, because this way you can get personalized questions answered, and it's, you know, it's worth far more than the $20 that, you know, that people spend for it, and it's life. You know why? Because it's information for the soul, folks, or we wouldn't waste our time. I don't do GoldFish Report. You know, there's so many people out there doing interviews. There's so many people out there doing politics. But the kind of information I like to bring is good for the soul. That's worth the risk. That's worth the interruptions we get in our internet. That's worth the, you know, the harassment that you get. Is at least it's contributing to the quality of your life, and that's what you know, public programming and public media is all about, is making sure that the information that we present to you is good for the soul, and that in some way it contributes to the quality of your life. And so you know, that's why we're excited about bringing this kind of platform to you, and we're just very grateful for your donations. Thank you so much. And yeah, Linda, thank you. My skin is looking better. I know these attacks have been horrible, and I'm working on all kinds of things to heal it. But you know, it's I appreciate you mentioning that comment there. And so, folks, we're still open, and it depends on questions. I mean, if you don't have a lot of questions, again, we're happy to and grateful for your donations that you have been dropping in the super chat. Either way, though, if you want to use PayPal, you can do that too. I put the link in there. All you have to do is scroll up and look at the link. But either way, it's absolutely fine. You can do it either way. It's not a big deal, but you know how Google is, Google is Google, they deleted our original YouTube channel and never restored it. So, we've been, been, we haven't been friends. So people donation, Chris, my question is, okay, let me go check out, hold on just one second. Is that Pork Chop? Pork Chop, are you back? I just love these nicknames, Alex. You like that nickname?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Is that like a gangster nickname? I don't know. It's funny. Old Stuff Antiques. Is that you? I guess that's you, Pork Chop. All right, let me go to your question. Thank you. Yes, I did get it. Okay. Okay, his question is, does Alex think we are going to have another big event like 9/11 to get people to really come together? We are in a different place now. So what do you think about that, Alex?
Wow. It's certainly possible. I hope not. Let me tell you about something that's going on here.
Mhm.
And for the listeners, if you want more information on this, Dave Hodges at the Common Sense Show has been putting out information on this the last 48 hours. For several weeks in northern Colorado and the Kansas border and the Nebraska border and the Wyoming border, there have been hundreds of drones flying all over the place.
Hmm.
This is also occurring in Northern Virginia. And what he's been, and what we do know is that Department of Homeland Security has been briefing the state legislatures of Kansas, Nebraska, Wyoming, and Colorado about something that's going on. Dave has said that he's been told by his sources that they're looking for 2 dirty bombs. And one of them is targeting Denver, and the other one is going to target DC. Now, if something were to happen to DC and it were taken out for some, most people don't know this, but Denver is the designated second capital. It would be the new capital of the United States. Well, Homeland Security is very busy with Kansas as well as Nebraska, that if this turns out to be real and doesn't happen, that one of those 2 places would then become the new capital of the United States. We'll just have to see. I don't know. I'm still sitting with this, and I've been asking for information and guidance on this from the A's. I have yet to hear from them, so I don't know how real this is. But people have been documenting and talking about these drones for weeks here in Colorado. So, the people who would do this you have to, it's just despicable. It's just despicable because it's all about power. It's all about their power. They don't care who they hurt and what they do. Hopefully this will not happen. Hopefully if it does, if they attempt to do something, there'll be intervention. Frankly, I expect that there will be intervention. We'll just have to see. But, that's a real scenario that's occurring right now here on the Front Range of the Rockies. So
Interesting. I have heard that reported elsewhere as well. They didn't know what was going on with these drones. Exactly. We have another question, and let me see if I can find it. Okay. Any knowledge? This is from Nathan. Thank you, Nathan, for your super chat. Any knowledge on advanced medical tech for use on our pets, cats, dogs? I would even add for us on that as well.
Well, yeah, I understand that there are two med beds on the planet, on the surface. I have been told that one of them is in Shanghai, China, and the other one is somewhere in South Africa. And they're in private hands. And at this moment, it's invitation only. I have no way of obviously verifying that because I haven't been invited, you know, to experience that. But I understand that the technology is real. You know, there are a lot of alternative sources of healing. You know, it's interesting that they call natural healing alternative when it's been around 5,000 years. And Western medicine is considered the real deal when in fact that literally is the alternative medicine.
Exactly.
You know, Western medicine is the alternative because it's only been here 100 years. So, you know, it's just like everything's upside down and double speak.
Right. Well, I think
I have to tell you honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I am extremely optimistic of the future. I really am. I only see great things, wonderful things for humanity coming. You know, we've got a bunch of idiots who just don't get the message. And, you know, they're clinging to something that is not only not real, but it's done. It's over. You know, humanity will never evolve with this system that they've created, nor will they. They've only entrapped themselves as well. So, you know, they're just the last to get it. But, you know, humanity is going to be okay. I know we're going to be okay. And our destiny is bright. Our destiny is to eventually travel the stars like Star Wars, like Star Trek, you know, to visit planets in our inner solar system. It's all going to happen. And I mean, it is on some level already. But to invite humanity to participate in this is just going to be spectacular. It's going to be spectacular. And, you know, there is no lack of abundance. There really isn't. We just have to get past all these belief systems that were created to hinder us from reaching our own full potential. And we're going to be okay. We really are going to be okay. It's just getting over these humps, you know, of these moheds and jackals.
Yeah, it's true. You know, and I think that's what's happening. We see that unfolding right now. We do have a list of, I think I have seen just today the updated list of sealed indictments at 144, and 844,000. So it's
Wow.
144,844, which is supposed to be some significant number there. And I think that the first one, as Q is implying, will take down. It'll basically take down the House of Cards, and I think it's going to shock people. But you know, a lot of people find it hard to believe. You know, everybody says the government's corrupt, but you know what? You have no idea how corrupt the government has been, and what Donald Trump is trying to do to change it. So, Alex, you're still in contact with the Andromedans, is that correct?
Yeah.
What about Donald Trump?
What about him?
What have they told you about him and his role, and what could you share with us?
Nothing. They haven't shared anything specifically about him.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
you know, how do I put this? I want you to look at this idea, okay?
Mhm.
Folks,
Mhm.
I really want you to look at this idea.
Mhm.
I want you to look at the idea that the white hats are not only human beings, okay? They're not only human beings. I want you to look at the idea with a very, very high probability that the Q group is not only human beings,
Right.
okay? This is an integrated movement to free humanity. And because of the ability of the non-human factor to go
Mhm.
back and forth in time, they can tweak timelines, which I've been sharing with people for several years now,
Mhm.
to make sure that the outcome is for humanity's highest good.
Mhm.
Please know that. For humanity's highest good.
Absolutely. I hate to interrupt you, Alex, but we're at 10 minutes to the hour, and I wanted to just let everybody know that we have 10 minutes left to get your questions in. So if you have a question, it's a super chat donation, or you can go to the donate button on the PayPal link that I put here. I'll post it here again just to make it easy for everybody. But we're in our last 10 minutes because the questions are, they've been kind of sporadic. So if you have any more questions, we have like 10 more minutes. So please, by all means, get your questions in, and we'll, hope to do this again. I think we had a great time. We had some interruption with the internet. There's no real good reason for it, but these things happen. But I think overall, it's been a pretty good connection, though, Alex. So I appreciate you hanging in there with me on
Sure.
that.
Hey, can I share something
Go right
that might
ahead.
be of interest to others?
Sure.
According to the A's, we have 13 planets in our solar system,
Mm.
and their idea of a planet is one that has its own atmosphere generated by the planet itself. All right. Now, they've also said that as we move into fifth density, our solar system expands to 27 planets. Also, in fifth density, Jupiter is a sun and it's light blue in color.
Mhm.
And I just thought that, uh, maybe somebody would be interested in that. In that, within 500 years, 500 to 1,000 years, several of our generations will begin to have a blue skin, um,
Mm.
because of the light that comes from Jupiter.
Mm. Interesting.
That I pulled that from the old archives.
Why would we have blue skin? I mean, doesn't Mornay have blue skin?
Yes, they do,
Okay. And I heard that
because that's their star. Their biggest star is blue.
mhm. I heard that the civilization under the Indian area, the Himalayan area, Tibetan area,
Agartha, you
there's
refer
yeah,
to Agartha?
if that's where Agartha is, then yeah, they had blue. I mean, you can see it portrayed in their art and in their Hindu, art. They had blue skin. Is this the same group of people?
They were extraterrestrials.
Right. But how many different races have blue skin? Are there many?
Yeah, yeah. There are
Mm.
the the universe is extremely diverse. There are races that have purple skin, dark blue, um, and then there's other races that have colors we don't even have on our physical
Mm.
spectrum here in third
Mhm.
density. So we wouldn't know what to call it.
Krishna. Yes, Krishna is painted as blue. That's right. Nathan has another question, so we're going to squeeze him in. Come on, folks. We've got a few more minutes left. We've got quite people who are now asking questions. Okay. Does Alex have knowledge on ancient mining of the planet by ETs in the Earth's past? The Grand Canyon, for example, looks like an ancient quarry. Thank you for asking that question, because it looks like that to me too, Alex. What do you know about that?
Yes. You know, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the ancient lands of the West, I've been told that what they're referring to is the Grand Canyon. That is why you have all these monuments that are named after Egyptian gods. That is why you have all these tunnels holding all of these archives of treasures and ancient artifacts. There's several canyons in the Grand Canyon that hold literally 1 to 2 million tons of gold. It's called deep storage. It's still in the ground, in the mountain, in the valley, but it's called deep storage. That's how it's registered, but it holds 1 to 2 million tons of gold. So, and they've known about it for a very, very long time. But all of that is in areas where the national park won't let you go. They don't want anybody in those areas. So, yeah, the Grand Canyon is an extraordinary place. And, you know, that's why another great book by Barry Fell, Fell, he wrote a book, America Beat Artifacts, proving that ancient cultures were here in North America going back thousands of years. They all knew about this area. And in Los Lunas, New Mexico, there's the remnants of a temple, an altar that had the 10 Commandments carved in stone, written in an ancient Aramaic Hebrew language that is over 2,000 years old, that's literally been extinct for 1,500 years. And then, of course, you have the Egyptian symbols, the Nordic symbols, the Welsh symbols. Another fascinating thing is the legends of King Arthur in Tennessee, and his offspring, his sons. You might want to look into that one. That's fascinating. The legends of King Arthur in the valleys of Tennessee, and all of these structures that were built to record the solstice. I mean, you know, the Indians didn't build that. They didn't have that knowledge. They weren't interested in any of that anyway. So, you know, our history is just staggeringly rich and full of depth. And there's so much to us. It's going to be an amazing awakening for all of humanity when we find out who we are and who we've been and who our ancestors were and what they've been through. And it's going to give us not only such pride, but it's also going to inspire us to continue to do the right thing and to make sure that all future generations and past generations get acknowledged for their greatness and what they've done to contribute to humanity. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we're all family. We are all family. The extraterrestrials out there, they don't look at us as a bunch of miscellaneous races. They see us as one race, you know, maybe different cultures, but one race, one family, sharing the same planet and its resources. And we have to have a paradigm shift to begin to think that way. You know, we just do. And the sooner we do, the sooner we move on and we begin to reach our potential. You know, and we'll end all wars, we'll end hunger, because we'll all give a shit about each other. Imagine that.
Yeah, right. I just wanted to thank Jane for her PayPal donation. Jane, if you're in the chat, please, if you have a question, feel free to put that in capital letters as well. And yeah, there's the giants that are in Grand Canyon as well. So, folks, we're in our last few minutes now. We do appreciate you joining us. This is the last few minutes of our super chat Q&A. If you have a question for Alex, this is your last shot at it. And we will hopefully be back. Would you join us again, Alex, for another a live Q&A?
I would love to. I'm amazed at how quickly it went.
I know it's 2 hours already, and it's just like it just flew by. And what's nice is that I think people like that we gave them the option to of doing the PayPal or the super chat, because I think a lot of people don't want to give Google their banking information either, and I don't blame you. I wasn't really all that comfortable doing it myself, but hey, this is how we have to support the channel and support the programming that come on that we provide on public media. And don't forget, folks, to subscribe to us on YouTube, and also we're also a 24/7 news page that you can find on Facebook. You could also find us on Twitter 24/7. You can also look at our blog, and that is strictly, most strictly the president. I have another POTUS report out this week. As you all know, I have privileges at the White House, and I do cover the president almost exclusively when it comes to that. But of course, we have, our political theater that I do with Jim Fetzer. We changed the structure of the programs this year so that the POTUS reports are a little bit shorter than the politics reports, the political theater with Jim Fetzer. So just be on the lookout, folks, this weekend. In Virginia, there's hundreds of, I mean, thousands of militia there because they're trying to take guns away. They're trying to confiscate the guns. They're trying to pass laws. As Alex said tonight, numerous times, this is their MO. They're trying to keep power. They're trying to do all that they know how to do. The only thing that they know how to do, and it's not going to happen. And they're hoping for a very peaceful resolution, Alex, that this is exactly what you're talking about. We are seeing it unfold right before our eyes in the current news. We have a couple minutes, folks. If you do have any questions, and or even if you just want to make a donation, we appreciate that as well. So I just wanted to ask Alex if you had any final comments or anything that you wanted to add to this before we close out. Alex, did I lose you? Oh, there you are.
No, I'm here. I'm here. I was just taking in the moment. It's very scary to move your vulnerability to the heart, because we all have those lessons. But I think it was Buddha who said, be the change you want to see in the world. And we have to set an example. And the heart is going to take precedent here in humanity. And with our incredible extreme of emotions, it is going to be quite something to see when we become known as a race of compassion, when the definition of our race is called compassion. Because of everything we've been through, the lessons that we can share with other evolving races and civilizations that we will in fact come in contact with in the future, in future generations of our civilization. We're gonna make huge changes, and that's our destiny. We're good. We are great. We are an amazing race, which is why they came down and they began and tried to manipulate us so much, which is why they're fighting so hard to try to keep control of us, because they need us more than we need them. and they've just gone about it in completely the wrong way. And when it's all said and done, and we move to that space of forgiveness, and we move past the hurt and the pain and the anger, the righteous anger that humanity is going to experience, literally the universe is the limit, you know? And I just want to say, for me, it's been an honor and a privilege, not all the time, but it's been an honor and a privilege to serve on the front lines and to be of service, because I love us. I do. I love us. And let's
I can
get
tell.
there. Let's get there.
We could tell, Alex. We could tell. We can hear it. We can read it. We could feel it. We can hear it in your voice. And we know that you do. We know that you have gone through so much. You have sacrificed a great deal over 30 years of your career, Alex, of coming out and disclosing and discussing the knowledge and the insight that the Andromedans have shared with you to share with humanity. And you have taken a lot of arrows for it. You have suffered greatly, and I know personally, and I'm not going to get into it, but I know that you have suffered personally, and you have made many, many sacrifices to share this information with the world, with humanity, for the benefit of humanity. And personally, I am very grateful to you. I've learned so much. I'm telling you, it's so amazing listening, just sitting here listening to you and listening to, uh, you're a very good storyteller, and you're very good at you know, being very the way you explain your answers is very coherent, and you don't jump around or anything. It's like it's very straightforward and easy to follow and easy to listen to, and you know, it's and you're so calm, and you do have such a very loving energy. So we know that you're very sincere and genuine in your message, and that you know is I'm grateful for that, and I think we're all very grateful to you for that, because I think there's the fact that you haven't gone and commercialized yourself like a lot of other people have, and I'm not begrudging anybody, but you're very humble, and I think that makes your message stand out. That's my point for saying that. Aside from some super chats that do help to kind of keep the lights on and keep some food on the table for us both, it's been a life of dedication and sacrifice for you, Alex, and I just want to thank you. I'm so grateful to you. Thank you so much for joining me.
It's been a privilege, and it's all part of the service.
It's all part of the
It's
service.
all part of the service.
You're
All
so
right.
funny. Okay, well, so everyone, I want to thank you all so much. Oh my goodness, thank you so much for that very generous donation. You're so the bearded one. Did you have a question for Alex before you go? Oh my goodness. Did you have a question? He just says thank you. It was a generous super chat. We're very, very grateful to you. I really appreciate that. Yeah.
Awesome.
And we have wonderful viewers. I mean, Alex, like I said, the viewers who come by have been watching you for a long time, and you're not easy to find, to be honest. I mean, some of the clips are out there, but they're short clips, and there's a couple of longer ones, but it's been a difficult path for you, and I think a lot of people recognize that, and they recognize your sacrifice. And I know that it's been a steep one. I don't think it's one that most people would make, to be honest with you. So I do appreciate your strength of character and soul and spirit, because I don't think it's a sacrifice many people would be willing to make. So I just want to put that out there on the record, because I personally know what kind of sacrifices he's made, and it's like I said, it's just not something everybody would do. So I'm very, very grateful for you, Alex, and also to our wonderful viewers who are there with us. And I think, Alex, you said this yourself, there's a responsibility too. The people, the viewers who are here being part of this, they're being enlightened. not just vibrationally through your message, but through your words as well. And there's a responsibility. They're going to be there to help others who, are going through their waking up, process. Isn't that right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, everybody's at a different place, but we're all sharing this moment, you know. So
Absolutely. So, folks, thank you so much. Thank you for your donations. We appreciate that. Help keep us going and keep more reports like this coming to you and our live interaction. We're so grateful for all of you and for your wonderful questions as well. We will be back with another live stream Q&A with Alex, and uh, that's basically it. I hope you all have a really wonderful weekend. Stay positive and look at the events that are unfolding, and try to stay calm and not be impatient like me. And it'll happen. Alex says it with such a calm voice, and it's very reassuring. And I know it reassures me. Because when I report the news, I'm in the face of this all day long, and it does get stressful for me too, I think. So it's kind of like, it's taking so long for this to really play out on the political theater stage, that it just, you forget that there is so much going on in the background, and it's almost pretty much done. So everybody, thank you so much. Everyone have a really great night. And this concludes this edition of the GoldFish Report. You all have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And thanks for joining.